Today was a day for a reaction video, and I did one to a really thought-provoking video and had sound issues. So instead, I'm going to do a reaction to a news story that was posted yesterday called City Exploring Ordinance to Protect Patients at Toledo's Last Abortion Clinic. And I'm just going to say going into it that I get the feeling it's not to protect the patients, it's to protect the clinic. So let's see if I'm right.
Toledo's last abortion clinic is a topic that draws strong opinions, so much so that clinic supporters are looking at a plan some say will protect patients.
Okay, so it's the clinic's supporters saying the plan will protect patients. That's interesting. Let's see where this goes.
Protesters argue it's a violation of their rights. Emma Henderson breaks down both sides of the discussion, new tonight.
Capitol Care Clinic has workers dedicated to safely escorting patients inside.
Safely. They are assuming that the pro-lifers are going to harm them in some way. So that's already taking the side that the clinic is there purely to benefit the women and the pro-lifers are there purely to harm the women.
Those volunteers say the safety ordinance is needed to keep people from being harassed.
Okay, so now they're saying it's about being harassed, not about being harmed.
But pro-life protesters argue it hurts their ability to try and counsel people before they go inside.
It would put people like myself.
I like how they made sure the cross was visible over his shoulder so that, the crucifix, so that they could give the message, it's only those rabid, weird Catholics who are against these women and harassing them.
In jail, potentially, because of actions that I've taken to reach out to moms in need.
Notice he's talking about reaching out to moms in need. I've talked about this before.
Often when we encounter a mother on the sidewalk, their first natural reaction when encountering us, because we're a stranger, is to say, no, thank you.
They don't have to stop talking. They don't have to stop doing anything. They just have to give the patient space.
Okay, I can see she's got the infamous coat hanger on her shirt. I've covered this too. That is a myth. Even Planned Parenthood said that 90% of women prior to legalization were finding doctors to do their abortions, and Mary Calderone of Planned Parenthood said the doctors were doing a pretty good job. So that's a red herring.
Which is common sense and decency when somebody asks you to leave them alone.
Peter Rain.
Okay, she's got a point that if somebody's asking you to leave them alone, you should leave them alone. So I'm agreeing with her there.
Which helps organize some of the protests. He points out the facility is close to a busy street and his group faces other challenges already, including the way escorts treat protesters. Kristen Haiti with Capitol Care Escorts is calling for the ordinance to support patient choice.
Okay, when she's talking about how the escorts treat the protesters, I have seen people who were appalled, pro-choice people, who were appalled at how the escorts treat the women. A friend of mine came down to a clinic where I was, one of the protesters, and his girlfriend was one of the escorts. And he had some questions about what his girlfriend was saying, and he decided to come down and see for himself. And he got to see the escorts pulling open a car door, grabbing the woman out of the car while she's looking around and literally shoving her through the clinic door before she even has a chance to talk to anybody. And he found that to be a problem. He thought that the escorts were actually far more aggressive toward the women than the pro-lifers were. And he found it pretty distasteful the way the escorts would cheer and act like their team at a football game had just scored a touchdown when the woman went into the clinic. The women certainly didn't look that happy walking in, and he didn't think it was, if nothing else, he thought it was a little bit tasteless to be celebrating something that when the woman was crying and not happy about it.
All we tell them is, just so you know, that person is a protester. They're not with the clinic. You are under no obligation to talk to them.
She might be telling the truth, but I had the behavior I've seen is that the escorts tend to surround the woman, shout in her ear so she can't hear the pro-lifers, and even if she's reaching for the things the pro-lifers are handing out, they'll kind of elbow the pro-lifers away so that they never get close enough that the woman is able to take the material from them. I would want to see video of what actually happens outside this clinic. Is this woman telling the truth when she's talking about how the escorts behave?
I'll be ready to walk you in when you're ready. And if they give you anything and you don't want it, we can take it from you.
We have sidewalk.
Also, I talked to a woman who became a pro-life activist after being an escort. They had told the escorts, you should take away anything that the women take from the pro-lifers because it's full of lies and distortions and it's just there to make them feel guilty. And she wanted to be able to counter these lies. So she went to the library and she came up with, oh my gosh, the stuff the pro-lifers are handing out is true and the stuff we're telling the women is false. And that switched her. That totally flipped her from being a clinic escort to being a pro-life activist with Feminists for Life. I don't know if they're only taking the things the women receive from the pro-lifers if the woman doesn't want it, or if they are snatching it away and not letting her see it. Again, I would want to see video of what's going on outside that clinic, and I would not want to see video gathered by the news crew because the clinic escorts would certainly be on their best behavior. The pro-lifers would be on their best behavior. People would not be behaving the way they usually behave. I think it would be a good idea if the news people wanted to know what was going on there, that they send somebody down who pretends to be just standing around with the pro-lifers and just video everything and see what's really happening.
Escorts who are getting in the way, who are opening umbrellas in our faces so that we can't reach out to the moms in need.
What he's saying matches a little bit more what I've seen, what other people have described.
So it's already incredibly difficult to reach a mom who's in a crisis.
The patient safety ordinance would require protesters to keep an 8-foot distance between them and a woman receiving care.
A woman receiving care. They are assuming it's care. These women are customers. Okay? This is like if there was any other business in town that truth in advertising laws weren't being applied to and people were being hurt. Imagine it was a veterinary clinic that you discovered was pushing people to put their animals through unnecessary surgery because they wanted to make money from people's concern for their pets, and they had to stay 8 feet away from the people who were bringing their pets in. If it was anything other than abortion, where the people believed that bad things were happening to the people going in and trusting that business, you'd have a problem. You would see that it was protecting the business and not protecting the customers to prevent people from saying bad things happen in there. You have alternatives.
If they don't consent to counseling. If someone is found
How are they going to consent to counseling if you have to stay 8 feet away? The woman can't even walk up to you and ask what you're doing.
to be violating that ordinance, which includes the 8-foot rule and restricting unwanted contact, they could face up to a $1,000 fine and a year in jail.
I'm wondering how they define unwanted contact. I'm going to guess it's unless the woman said, oh, please, please, pro-lifer, come here and talk to me right this very minute. They're going to say it's unwanted contact.
In West Toledo, Emma Henderson, WTOL 11.
Today was just a committee hearing. People in opposition to the ordinance are asking that another hearing be held before voting. They'd like time to organize a presentation on their concerns with the ordinance.
Okay.
Toledo's last abortion.
So again, what I'm seeing here is I think that there needs to be video of what actually happens there. As you know, if you watch this channel at all, I view abortion clinics with great suspicion because I've seen about the high pressure sales tactics, the lying to women, the substandard conditions, the injuries, the deaths. This is something where they're assuming that protecting the clinic protects the women. And I tend to be very suspicious of that. Abortion clinics are very fetus focused. Their goal is to get that woman in, get her on the table. Well, first, get the woman in, get her money, get her on the table, get rid of that fetus. And they're not there to help her with her homelessness. They're not there to help her if she's being sexually abused. They're not there to help her if she's unemployed. They're there to get rid of the fetus. And the pro-lifers are there. They're very holistic because they have to address everything that would lead the woman to walk into that clinic to begin with. So they, by the nature of what they're doing, have to help her to resolve whatever problems it is she's facing. And it seems to me that if you're pro-choice, you would want the women to be able to have access to things that would help them to choose based on the actual help that would be available to them, whether they really need this abortion, rather than having them go into some place that's all they do. So those are my thoughts on that story.